We'll call this meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Salem to order. If the recorder would please call the roll.
Board Member Kaiser?
Present.
Board Member Anderson?
On my way.
Board Member Nanke?
Here.
Board Member McCoy is absent. Board Member Ossick?
What's here?
Board Member Hoy?
Here.
Board Member Cook?
Here.
Board Member Lewis?
Here.
And Chair Bennett.
Here. Thank you. And if you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Nanke, could you do we have any revisions on this, on the urban renewal? Not for renewal, okay, never mind, sorry. Public comment. I have 3 people signed up. Richard Berger.
I've heard of him.
3 minutes, Richard. Please.
Hopefully I won't take 3 minutes.
Okay.
Richard Berger, Mountain West Investment. I'm here with Beth Hayes of Community Resource Trust. Due to an incredible effort by the city, our organizations have around 350 units of affordable housing under construction here in Salem. And I'm just here to thank the council and the city staff for doing an amazing job on helping with that effort. Building this kind of housing is incredibly complicated, and it hasn't been done in Salem for a very long time. And without the council's financial support and really political will, as well as without the staff's extra effort to get it done, we wouldn't have got it under construction. And in Oregon, if we don't get it started this year, then you wait a year, because hopefully it'll start raining soon. So really just thank you very much for your effort. And with Amazon coming, our Fruitland project right out there by Maclay and Kubler at that Cordon area is going to be even more valuable. Beth, do you want to add anything?
I also want to say thank you on behalf of just the entire community. I've been working very closely with the nonprofits and service providers in our area who are helping people gain some stability in their lives. And this is very meaningful to our community and the people who are working really hard to help people. I just wanted to share a few things that we're going to be providing residents at Cornerstone, which is up on Portland Road, to help them experience some stability. We will have a 4,500 square foot community building, and there on site people will have access to financial literacy, rent class, DHS case management, service access workshops, adult English literacy, GED education, a preventative health clinic, a food pantry, community gardens, a playground, fitness classes, and community cafe, which is run by Catholic Community Services. So I just wanted to share that with the community and with the council and just let you know about the really awesome stuff that we're doing with your help. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, would you mind, just for the record, your name and
My name is Beth Hayes, Hays, no E, and I'm with Community Resource Trust.
Great. Thank you very much. Were there any questions? Yeah, Jim.
Actually, not a question, just a comment. I want to thank Mountain West especially for their efforts in Salem, whether it's this one that you're talking about or the Career Technical School or even the splash fountain in the park. It's great to have. One of the things I noticed when I came to Salem 17 years ago was how much work is done here by local people who are invested and stay here and live with their products. And Mountain West is a perfect example of that, so thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Jane Downing.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett, City Council members. My name is Jane Downing, and I am the Executive Director of the Center for Hope and Safety, 605 Center Street Northeast in Salem. And first off, I just want to say thank you. More than 30 years ago, the city provided the funds to open the very first domestic violence shelter in the city of Salem. And in that time that we had that operating, over 30 years, 15,887 children and adults found safety and hope in that place. When I think about the lives that were transformed from that, it makes me cry. So I'm here tonight because we have asked that the loans that we took out for the original purchase of the building, which you made possible, and for 2 small loans to do some repairs since the house was built in the 1920s. Of course, we were always fixing it and working on it. And any of you that got to see it at 1590 Winter Street Northeast, you know that it's a beautiful old house, and you think about the volume of people that were living in it. It was always in need of repairs, and most of the time community members donated the funds to be able to do that. But the city did provide a couple of small loans to keep that up, and so we're very appreciative of them doing that. But we have opened a new shelter. We did a capital campaign, a very quiet one, because we didn't want the shelter location to be known. We raised almost $1 million in less than a year through foundations, through long-term donors. We did not come to the city for any of those funds. You all were incredible in helping us open our advocacy office, and we didn't want to keep coming to you and saying, and now help us do this too. But we would like the ability to take those funds from the sale of the house that we owe you and put it towards the new shelter. It is already up, it's operating, it's helping children and families. Every single day, people are being served, and we would like to be able to use those funds to continue to provide those life-saving services in the Salem area. So I just want to I'm here tonight to answer any questions that you have and address any concerns you might have about that. So thank you very much again on behalf of everyone that we serve. We appreciate all that you do.
Thank you, Jane. We really appreciate the program and all the work that you and your staff and volunteers and donors have done in this community over the years.
You.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? Councilor Hoy.
Not so much a question, but I also just wanted to thank you, Jane, for your amazing advocacy for survivors of domestic violence in our community. It's such an important work that you do, and I'm very grateful for that, and I thank you for bringing this issue to council.
Thank you.
What else? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, is there any further public comment? If you would introduce yourself.
Yes. I'm Suzanne Stanford, and I've lived here since 1965. And I want to say to Jane, you're doing a wonderful job. I used to carry the pager for the Women's Crisis Center, and now men are included in this whole concept of possible abuse and disrespect. So thank you. I wanted to certainly quickly say yay for the fire department and yay for the police department. My husband was ill many years, and the fire department, they were there. And I take a police ride-along every year, and I highly recommend it. The officers I've ridden with are obviously willing to do that. They talk, they explain. And my last officer said, he said, stay in the car. Because it was a bad night. And he said, understand? I said, yes. So anybody here I encourage, sign up. All you have to be is 18 or over and never been a felon. It's easy. And you can pick your time. I go Friday or Saturday graveyard. That's busy.
That's a fun time.
But I have 3 proposals for hot connections. The first one, I was part of getting all this art collection in '72 when this opened. I had another friend, Jordan Schick, and we had more people walk in off the street, and they had a story to tell. They wanted to give money for their grandma or whoever, and it worked. And what I found was that the employees in this complex were very proud. They had art, and they would often, their lunch hour, they'd take their friends around and say, oh yeah, look, this is kind of a kooky thing, but it's colorful or whatever. And so that kind of drawing together of the general public, with or without money, is a very good idea. Another thing I would propose, I am a medical advocate, and I find I do that as a service. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I have noticed that all the years I went through with family members, I learned how to be smart as a family member. It isn't enough to just be a family member. You gotta be smart. And so it would be a very good idea.
I'm sorry, your time's up.
Oh, okay.
Why don't you go ahead and I'll ask you, what was your third point?
Oh, my third one. Yes, my third one was that I feel there is a prejudice, and it's general across our population, towards seniors.
Here, here.
And there are, yes, and there are quite a few of us. I'm 84. So, you know what? I don't believe in just having that line set. And so I have opened my door to storytelling, etc., by those that want to do that. And I think it's a great idea. And it can be structured so it's confidential and appropriate.
Great. Thank you very much. Councilor Anderson, did you?
Thank you. No, ma'am. Thank you very, no, come down, come back.
Oh, I know. Okay.
Thank you very much for coming back. I appreciate all the things you had to say, but I think maybe these were things that were meant for the city council meeting, so I would
ask you, Mr. Anderson, to keep your council hat on all the time.
Okay, so I will assume that this was at the council meeting, and that's fine.
Oh,
That's great.
I didn't know this
You
wasn't.
did just fine.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
We wear lots of hats.
Councilor Lewis?
Just a comment, and I'm recognizing this more every day as my senior citizen status improves, but 84, it's still middle age.
Oh, of course, of course. I also have applied at Oregon State Correctional Institute 4 times to go in, and as a GED qualified person, I've got no answer, none.
Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we do actually have business. Okay, the consent calendar.
So you want me to take this?
Please.
All right. I would move the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
And included in our consent calendar this evening are the meeting minutes from August 24th meeting. Funding for Mill Creek infrastructure improvements, that's the Mill Creek Corporate Center out off Corden Road, $875,000 to fund sewer and wetland improvement projects. Between us and the state, we have agreements on who does what inside and outside of the property boundary. This is within that. To allow for development on sites E and F. As we had a testimony, request to forgive loans for the Center for Hope and Safety Shelter Home. And appointing, if my screen will scroll up, Jared Robert Martin to the North Gateway Redevelopment Advisory Board.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilor Lewis?
Yeah, I'd actually asked to have agenda item 4.3B pulled, but I think rather than do that, I'll just make a comment. I too want to echo some of the comments I've heard this evening. and especially thank Ms. Downing and her staff for the work they've done for the last 30 years. It's a long time to be working in a community. But I also want to thank the city of Salem. This story started more than 30 years ago, and I don't think any of us were here then, except possibly Councilor Yankee. And it showed 30 years ago the intent of this city to have a kind heart, and it shows today, and it'll continue to show tomorrow.
Great, thank you very much. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Information reports. Ms. Rutherford?
The information report tonight relates to administrative purchases, which are the renewal of our ongoing contracted services, or the on-call contracts. But I would like to take this opportunity to speak very, very briefly to the Mill Creek item and this request for additional funding. With the announcement of the Amazon development, we are now seeing additional interest in the remaining property out at Mill Creek. And Amazon is taking up a very large chunk of that land out in the Mill Creek area that is already prepared for development. So as we move forward to the new phases and to prepare ourselves for the interest in these other properties, we need to move forward with some sewer line relocations and completing some wetland work. So that's why that item is before you this evening.
Very good. Any discussion? Councilor Anderson.
Director Rutherford, you and I had a conversation about this morning, and I know since this is a state agency, or the state owns the property in conjunction with, I don't know how it works, but the state's involved, so we do not have system development charges. We have something called DDFs. And those will be incorporated into this money that we're spending now as the development moves forward and developers and occupants of the site move in.
That's correct. This property is owned by the Department of Administrative Services, and in this area we have something that's similar to a system development charge that's for development just within this area. And the projects that we are going to be starting design on here in the next few months will be funded with a mixture of urban renewal funding and DDF funding, which is paid for by those that develop in the area.
Very good. Any further discussion? Seeing no further business, the Urban Renewal Agency is adjourned. Okay. Call this meeting of the Salem City Council for Monday, September 11th to order, and we'll take a roll first.
Councilor Kaiser? Present. Councilor Anderson?
Here.
Councilor Nanke?
Here.
Councilor McCoy is absent. Councilor Ossip?
Here.
Councilor Hoy?
Here.
Councilor Cook?
Here.
Councilor Lewis?
Here.
And Mayor Bennett?
Here. Very good. Councilor Nanke?
Yes, I would move revisions to the agenda as indicated in the sheets at your stations.
Second.
Any discussion?
Those revisions include adding the proclamation for 9/11 as a day of remembrance to the agenda this evening. Also, we're removing an appeal for property at 390 Hawthorne Avenue, but we're adding an appeal for property at 2249 Joplin Court South.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Council comments. Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to speak to fire on September 3rd in the Fairmont Hill area. We had a sudden and explosive fire in my ward, and I wanted to send a thank you to the Salem Fire Department. They did a wonderful job. Luckily, they had to try 3 hydrants before they found full pressure to be able to extinguish the flames. But that's something that's been ongoing. Also, to our police, there was a police officer that ran down Superior in order to tell people to evacuate so that no other property or homes were destroyed. Overall, it was an excellent example of police, fire, and neighbors working together in my ward. Also, I wanted to give a thank you to Lieutenant Debbie Aguilar and Corporal Smith, and of course, Chief. We've had issues around Wendy Kroger on my street, and also just general criminal mischief in the area. This past week, it looks like we had some good outcomes in that department, and I just really value the work of my neighborhood, working with the police and our neighborhood association, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Continuing on the disaster theme, we've had many, many disasters in the nation and in North America. In fact, there's the floods, the fires, and there was an earthquake in Mexico that lost a lot of lives. And while we do have the potential of fire, we don't really have the potential of major floods, but we certainly have the potential of earthquake. And I think this is a good time to remind our citizens that the city can help you with this, and I'm looking specifically at Roger Stevenson, who is standing over there on the side, and Roger comes to any group. His job is disaster preparedness, and he comes to neighborhood groups. He's come to groups of neighbors, and I urge everybody who's hearing this to take advantage of the services the city provides, because some point we're going to get the big one, and we're going to need to be prepared, and the city is, through the services of the city manager on down, and including Mr. Stevenson, are doing an excellent job at helping us prepare, and we should take advantage of that.
Great, thank you very much. Councilor Nanki.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, September is Preparedness Month. And Northwest Natural is sponsoring a Get Ready Salem event down at the Capitol. I think it's 26th? 23rd? Saturday, you can get some free stuff and get a lot of great information on how to get yourself prepared. Just in addition to that, and I'd emailed Director Rutherford, I had a constituent of mine get a parking ticket in the Marion Parkade on the second floor, which used to always be free. Apparently we have 121 of those spaces now that are permit parking, so just want people to pay attention. During the holidays, those sites are freed back up for free parking as well, but there are permit-only parking spaces. Apparently a lot of people were unhappy that day, right about the same time she came out and found a ticket on her car.
Well, I'm shocked anyone's unhappy with those tickets.
Well, we want to maintain, you know, that since we try to drive them into the parking structures, and
be nice to have parking there, wouldn't it?
but we still have adequate parking. It's just you got to really pay attention to the signs, which people aren't used to depending on how long they've been going and shopping there.
Okay, great. Councilor Kaiser.
Thank you. I just wanted to quickly promote an event happening on September 23rd, which is a Saturday. It's Open Street Salem, and it's happening from 11 to 4 o'clock that day. It's a free event that promotes active, healthy, and connected living. There's activities, entertainment, and food. It starts, there's a segment of the street that'll be closed off starting at the Salem Saturday Market at Union and Winter, and it'll run all the way north along Winter Street to Highland Elementary. And there are 4 activity hubs in that area, one at Saturday Market, one at Grant Community School, one at Broadway Commons, and one at Highland Elementary. So come out and bike or skate or walk or crawl or however you want, but the street will be totally free of cars and for people to move through. So, and the mayor and I both will be riding our bikes there around 11:15 that day.
Yeah,
and Chris, all right, Councilor Hoy.
And Councilor Kaiser. I will be an intersection hero at Maple and Columbia.
There we go. Come on up.
can't stop or it's quorum, right?
What a day we're going to have. That's going to be fun. I'm going to mention an event I took part in yesterday evening, celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Chabad Jewish Center here in Salem. It was celebrated by honoring a couple of really outstanding citizens, and one of them in particular, we all know Marilyn Johnston, received the Values in Action Award. Marilyn held the job that Gretchen Bennett does now with the Human Rights Commission. And it was really quite an outstanding function out at the Eola Center off Dokes Ferry Road of Chemeketa Community College. Really great event. I really recommend it if you run into it. I think they'll be doing it each year now. It was a really outstanding event. So that was interesting. And then on Saturday, I also had the chance to speak to all the persons who participated in the Alzheimer's Network walk down at Riverfront Park. And it was really well attended, a great event. So thought I'd mention that one as well. Councilor Hoy.
I'll just mention briefly that Councilor Anderson and I attended an event yesterday celebrating Salem Harvest, which is an organization that does amazing work harvesting fields after the farmers have taken their crops, and what they go in and take what's left over and give it to people who will use it right away. And it was just a really nice event celebrating a really important cause here in Salem.
They also harvest here in town.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they harvest several hundred pounds of grapes from some property we own each year. I know, and it's a great thing if you have apple trees, peach trees, pear trees, whatever, and you're not harvesting off them, or grapes or anything else. They will come in and clean the place up.
That's right. It will go to people right away. And people
Right away
will,
at the food bank. It's a great program. Thank you very much for representing us at that event. Anything else? Okay, we'll move on then to proclamations. I've got a couple of them this evening. I've got just a second. A proclamation for Micronesian Islander Community Celebration Day. Jackie Lung is here. She'll be receiving the proclamation. I have others potentially joining you. You're here with yourself.
Looks like you have two others that are joining you.
Okay.
Two extra cute ones.
Dexter Mayee and Lucinda?
Mayu.
Mayu, great.
Mayu and Lucida.
Oh, okay, they gave me the wrong Lucinda, okay. You don't have to change your name. I'm glad you're here, Jackie. Whereas on February 1st, 2011, the Micronesian Islander community, otherwise known as MIC, became chartered in the state of Oregon, and whereas more than 150 local Micronesian Islander community members represent the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, Chuuk, Kosrae, Marshall Islands, Palau, Ponape, and Yap communities, and whereas the Mayor's International Council benefits from MIC representatives and the generosity of wisdom and time offered by its members, and whereas MIC's members are actively involved with numerous projects in the Salem area to ensure the well-being of the community, and whereas recognizing the importance of celebrating members' heritage, MIC organizes the annual Micronesian Islander Community Celebration for celebration, and whereas this unique annual event attracts people from around the Northwest, now therefore I, Chuck Bennett, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim September 23rd, 2017 as Micronesian Islander Community Celebration Day, and encourage the community to join me in this special tribute to recognize the contributions of the Micronesian Island community on this occasion, where their talents are showcased and celebrated, dated this 11th day of September 2017. So Jackie, thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you're doing well. So as you know, we have an upcoming celebration on September 23rd, which actually is on the same day as Open Street. So come on over in between. Our event is supposed to start from 12 o'clock all the way till 5. We're going to have performances from Yap, from Palau, Pohnpei, and we have some special guests from Hawaii and from Samoa coming to perform.
Jackie, what's the location?
Oh, it's going to be at the Riverfront Park at the amphitheater area. Mm-hmm. And we're going to have food catered from Island Girl Lunch Truck. So if you want to try Guamanian food, there's a chance to try some. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My next proclamation is for Constitution Week. And I'd like to invite up Charlene Demonin. And who else have I got here? Louise Veskins and Artie Day. And these women represent two of the Daughters of the American Revolution chapters. One, the Chemeketa chapter. The other is the Anna Marie Pittman chapter. And I'm going to read just one of them because they pretty much say the same thing because we're celebrating the same event. Which is excellent, our Constitution. Whereas the Constitution of the United States embodies the principles of limited government in a republic dedicated to rule by law, and whereas we celebrate the 230th anniversary of the signing of the United States Constitution on September 17, 2017, and whereas we recognize the 62nd anniversary of Constitution Week as issued by President Dwight D. Eisenhower on August 19, 1955, and signed into Public Law 915 on August 2, 1956, and whereas it's fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and to the patriotic celebrations commemorating the occasion, and whereas the City of Salem, Chemeketa chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, and Anna Maria Pittman chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, officially acknowledge this historic occasion as it has been an official chapter since 1915, and that would be the Chemeketa, and 1985, is that correct, for the Anna Maria Pittman chapter. Whereas recognizing that these chapters' continued promotion of historic preservation, education, and patriotism, now therefore I, Chuck Bennett, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim September 17th to 23rd, 2017 as Constitution Week, and encourage the community to reaffirm the ideals of the Constitution by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to all of us through this enduring document dated this 11th day of September 2017. And you may applaud your Constitution. Thank you.
I remember that we are having a ring out on the 18th of September for across the nation. It will be at 4 p.m. on Eastern, 1 o'clock here. So if on the 18th, which is a Monday, you want to go out there and ring your bells, wave your flags, and have a parade, we're happy to have you do that.
Oh, great, great.
Chemeketa chapter will be participating in a walk around the block downtown here. We'll be at St. Joseph's Church. We'll be in front of there and walk around the block with the children from St. Joseph's, waving our flags and ringing our bells. And I hope everyone does, because this piece of paper for the Constitution gives us all of our liberties, and we need to really appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for the good work you're doing in keeping this remembered. Okay, thank you. And finally, Police Chief Jerry Moore, Deputy Fire Chief Carl DiCarlo, Roger Stevenson, our Emergency Services Manager, and Gary West, President of the Firefighters Union, IAFF Local 314, are here to receive our 9/11 Remembrance Proclamation. Come on down. Whereas September 11th marks a somber day in United States history, and whereas we remember the nearly 3,000 people who lost their lives on September 11, 2001 in New York City, Pennsylvania, and the Pentagon, And whereas the grief and devastation to this national tragedy was met with heroism, compassion, and union of the American people, and whereas we honor the valiance and fearlessness of hundreds of firefighters, police officers, and first responders, as well as ordinary people whose instinct was to run toward untold danger to help those in need. And whereas the sacrifices made by people on that horrific day remain etched in our minds forever, and whereas we remain a hopeful America inspired by the kindness and compassion of those who live here and our commitment to freedom and opportunity. And now, therefore, I, Chuck Bennett, Mayor of the City of Salem, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2017, 9/11 Day of Remembrance, and encourage the community to reflect on the terrible events of September 11, 2001, and honor those whose lives were lost, as well as the heroism of our first responders, dated this 11th day of September 2017. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being our first responders on every day. Thank you very much. Zim want to say anything?
All I can say is it's been a very proud part of my life to be associated with first responders for the last 30 years, and I can say that for all of them, both and all of the particular parts and pieces of the first responder world. They're a great group, and they're a great brotherhood and sisterhood.
Yeah, thank you. Gary reminds me and all of us there is a 4-alarm fire burning in Salem right now that our first responders are responding to. All right, thank you very much.
Just can't tell because there's so much smoke already.
Yeah. We'll go now to presentations. We have a grant for the Willow Lake Cogeneration Upgrade Project from Portland General Electric. Wendy, please.
Good evening, Mayor Bennett, Salem City Council. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Wendy Valise. I represent Portland General Electric, 4245 Cale Street Northeast. I do want to start, as much as I want to talk about this grant, I do want to congratulate the police chief. He did an outstanding job representing the city of Salem and the police here in the community earlier today at the Salem Chamber Forum. So he did a wonderful job. Thank you for representing our public, our safety folks today. With that, I am really happy to be here. I learned a little bit more about the project today. I had a very high-level overview of the project early on, but today I got some specifics, and I'm super excited to be here. So I want to talk a little bit about this grant. It's a $3 million grant. I want to start that because it's so significant. It is the largest that we have given to any one project, and I'm really happy that it would happen to be here in the city of Salem. So that was exciting. So let me talk a little bit about the fund so that you understand that part of the reason we're so pleased is because of the people who really support this. So it's the Renewable Development Fund, which is supports local communities through the Green Future program. So the Green Future program, it's 160,000 customers within PGE who voluntarily pay 6% on their electricity bill in exchange for PGE purchasing 100% renewable energy on their behalf. So a small portion of that money goes to this development fund, and it gets annually built up every year. This is a really unique opportunity, and I congratulate the city staff and team at the wastewater Willow Lake treatment plant for thinking about this opportunity, because it is the only cogeneration project that we have funded. All of the other projects in the past have been solar, so again, when they're looking at the criteria, that was very exciting for the project that the city of Salem was thinking about this program. Now, we have a long history with the city of Salem around support around projects like this. I just want to mention because, so we enrolled our first Salem customer in 2002 into this green power program where they were willing to pay more to support this effort. And in 2006, we partnered with then former Mayor Janet Taylor for the Green Power Challenge, and the city of Salem became a certified green power community back then. Now, currently today, 15% of Salem's PG customers are paying into this program. So that is another reason why we're thrilled, is to be able to support the customers who really have been putting into this fund over the years. And then a few other statistics, and I won't take too much more time here because there's so many wonderful aspects to this project, and you should be incredibly proud. This project, when it is completed, will equate to $300,000 per year in energy cost savings. It also will eliminate about 5,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions every year. So again, really cost savings, good for the environment, and very exciting. And also the ability that it will, and I think your staff has all the technical stuff, but just what it will be able to do when it's completed. Other than that, I'm again really happy that I'm here and I'm representing the company in sharing this news and compliment the staff and the customers that support this program. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Are there any questions? Yeah, a little extra clap for 3 minutes. Yes, go ahead, Sally.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to thank you very much from PGE for this grant. The wastewater treatment facility is quite possibly the best place to take a field trip ever, as far as excitement and as far as facilities. It's just lots of it's just lots of fun, and I would encourage, if you haven't had a chance to see it, it's pretty impressive.
I have. I've been there. I've been there during the winter, actually, when we've had some very rough storms out there. So that's thank you. I did want to mention one other thing, Mayor, which we do have a third party review all of the applications, and then we make a selection. And then there's another layer, and that is once a selection is made, they need to be approved through the Oregon Public Utility Commission. And so there are several layers to get selected. And so again, you should feel quite proud that not only did it make it through that process, but the grant is the largest that we've given. And again, it's because of such a strong application, such a strong project to support.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Mr. Fernandez, is there anyone here you want to acknowledge for their work on this project?
Thank you, Mayor. I do. Zhu Chow, who is our plant manager, and Ben Haney, who is our project engineer, both were instrumental in preparing the application. And I will tell you that it was a very robust and very large application that was put together. I'm also happy to report to the council that we are chasing an Energy Trust of Oregon grant for an equivalent amount, so that what is a $10 million project, we hope, will only cost the ratepayers $3 million. And that's a significant, not only savings to the project, but ultimately significant savings to energy. And we flare every day, but the methane gas that we produce as a byproduct now we'll be able to return and use as energy to support the plant. So we're very excited.
Well, congratulations to you and your staff. This is really outstanding. Councilor Ossick, did you have a question? You looked like you were adding it up there.
Yeah. No, sorry. It was just, he said 3 million, 10 million. So I was like, a million missing there.
We thought we'd acknowledge the question.
I'm a product of new math. So.
Okay. So you are gonna correct that number on the. Go ahead.
It's just rounding. It's $9.6 million is the.
Close enough. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much again, Wendy, for coming down to do this and present this. We're really honored to have received it. I know The staff does remarkable work out there, so thank you very much. I have no one signed. Oop, I do have someone. No, I don't. Okay. Herb, do you want to come up now? Might as well.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Herb Shaw. I live in Ward 8, and I have a business in Ward 1. And I just want to take this time to encourage each of you to seriously consider the opportunity that lies before you at this point, following the LUBA decision last month concerning the third bridge. We as a city, and you as our leaders, are in a much better position to address the single most divisive yet necessary issue in our city, and that is to provide a new bridge across the Willamette River to address the traffic bottleneck that now exists. I submit to you the timing is perfect to use common sense and practical solutions and thereby completely scrap the Salem preferred alternative and the proposed Second Street crossing projects. Then focus on at least one new bridge in a location that will actually provide relief for our traffic, our local traffic specifically. Salem cannot solve ODOT's regional traffic problems by funneling everything through our community and through our city. The sooner we realize that, the sooner we will get a citywide support for a crossing. We the people understand that we cannot afford a $450 million bridge project. We the people understand that those proposals are not only beyond our capability financially, but would decimate the West Salem and Highland communities with overhead bridges, retaining walls, and sound barriers that would simply relocate the pinch points that we experience now and do very little to solve the problem. Now is the time to do the right thing, so please don't let this opportunity slip away. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Any questions? Right. Thank you very much. Consent calendar. Councilor Nakey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the consent calendar with the following poll, 3.3C by Councilor Anderson.
Second.
Second by Ossick.
And the remaining items on the consent calendar are the collective bargaining agreement between the City and Salem Police Employees Union, funding for Mill Creek Corporate Center infrastructure projects, which is similar to what we saw on the Urban Renewal Agency, and then appointments to the Citizen Budget Committee, Community Police Review Board, Judicial Compensation Commission, which is a new one, and then Salem Cultural and Tourism Promotion Advisory Board.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. We have a public hearing that was withdrawn. We have a second public hearing. Two? 4B.
The city-
4B. Okay, I'm sorry.
The City Council will now hold a public hearing to consider annexation of territory located at 4932 Swegle Road Northeast and withdrawal of the territory from the Marion County Fire District Number 1 and the East Salem Sewer and Drainage District. The criteria applicable to the decision are ORS 222.170, 222.524, and SRC 260.060C. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable criteria or other criteria which the person believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue prior to the close of the public hearing in person or in writing, or failure to provide statements or evidence with sufficient specificity to provide the parties and the City Council an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. A similar failure to raise constitutional issues relating to proposed conditions of approval precludes an action for damages in circuit court.
Excellent. Okay, let's go ahead then.
Good evening. I'm Pamela Cole, Planner 2 with Community Development Department. I'd like to present the staff report and also enter the attachments in the presentation into the official record. The territory is approximately 0.55 acres, including right-of-way. It's located just south of Swegle Road Northeast, west of Cordon, and it's contiguous on its south side and west. It includes one parcel. It's located in the East Salem Sewer and Drainage District. The applicant requested city water because of a failing well. The quality of the water was just unacceptable, and she had the opportunity to connect with city utilities, but because it's contiguous, she did have to apply for annexation. So she did that in October, and council approved water service in January, and she received her water permit in January as well. In this case, we are under the qualifications for Senate Bill 1573. The annexation was submitted by all owners of the territory. It's within the urban growth boundary, subject to our comprehensive plan and contiguous to city limits. And through Senate Bill 1573, adopted in 2016, the annexation cannot be referred to the voters. However, it can be decided by City Council. Council retains the authority on whether to annex the territory. Staff found that the annexation meets the criteria, and those include whether it's consistent with comprehensive plan and statewide planning goals, whether it would allow orderly, efficient, and timely provision of urban services, and whether it serves the public interest. Therefore, we recommend that council find that the petitioner signed a valid triple majority petition, determine that the annexation satisfies the criteria, adopt Order 2017-02 ANX, apply City of Salem single-family residential zoning, and withdraw the territory from Marion County Fire District Number 1 and East Salem Sewer and Drainage District. That concludes my presentation. I'm, of course, available for any questions that you may have.
Okay. And we'll, is there anyone here to testify on it? Yes. We'll have the public testimony, and we can ask questions of staff. Dawn Keith. You don't have to if you don't need to. Okay. Thank you. Dawn, is this your property? Yes. Okay. Any questions for staff? Yes, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. And this is really for the city attorney. I think I need to be reminded again as to what happened to that case down in Corvallis, and are we going forward, and did the legislature fix it, and what's going on here?
The circuit court ruled against City of Corvallis and the League of Cities and dismissed their challenge to the case. It has been appealed to the Court of Appeals, and the League and Corvallis have filed their briefs, but the other side has not filed yet, so we're probably a good 6 months to a year off until they actually make a decision.
Okay. So we are acting as if the law that is now is the law, even though, okay.
Any other questions? Councilor Hoy, go ahead.
I move staff recommendation.
Second.
Second by Lewis. Councilor Hoy, any discussion?
No.
Okay. Councilor Lewis.
I think this is a great idea.
Okay.
Regardless of Corvallis, the home of the annexation vote, this is exactly why the legislature passed the law that they did. This is a piece of property right smack in the city. And the idea of having the city vote on whether this could come into the city limits is silly. The legislature finally made the move that should have been done decades ago and made the right decision, and I think this city is making the right decision by moving forward in this manner.
That's my answer.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Special orders of business.
We have a poll.
I have a poll, 3.3C by Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. I move that the City Council send the intergovernmental agreement back to the staff to negotiate with ODOT to expand the intergovernmental agreement to include evaluating, number one, the possibility of adding additional lanes to the bridge, and number two, develop a plan for two-way operation of the Center Street Bridge in emergencies.
Second. Second by Kaiser.
May I speak?
Oh, yeah,
Yes, thank
sorry.
you. I certainly agree with the intergovernmental agreement as it stands now, but it seems to me like we're losing a chance here to do some things. First one is, if you look at the Center Street Bridge right now, there's a bike pedestrian bridge that takes up maybe the equivalent of another lane, and is that really used by bikes and pedestrian when you can go, I don't know, a quarter mile north and you've got the on-grade bike pedestrian bridge there at Union Street? So I think we ought to take advantage of this to explore with the state government the ability to do that, because combining seismic upgrading with the bridge widening is likely to achieve some significant cost savings instead of doing the two steps separately. And then with the second one, development of a plan for the two-way generation, a plan, or two-way operation, excuse me, a plan for two-way operation makes sense because the purpose of this work right now, the seismic work, is to assure that Salem will have at least one functioning bridge after a Cascadia event. And if that happens, the Marion Street Bridge is gone, and we're going to have two-way traffic over the Center Street Bridge. So it seems to me this is a perfect opportunity to add those two elements to the intergovernmental agreement between ODOT and the city.
Counselor, I'm really intrigued by your motion. I don't find fault with kind of the discussion and the objective. I'm not sure you found the right car to drive here. I'm a little concerned that this vehicle is about getting what you and I and all of us have worried about for a number of years, getting the seismic work in progress and getting that seismic retrofit in progress. I think the additional idea you've got might be a separate issue, and that trying to tie these two together will frustrate both. I'm very concerned about it. That the money isn't there for that. The money is there for the seismic upgrade. We've asked for it for seismic upgrade. I don't disagree with the objectives you're talking about at all. I just think we need to look at it maybe a little further. I'd like to hear from the Public Works Director, because I may be wrong.
So would I, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This study's genesis is there was some money available in the Surface Transportation Program funds that SCATS has. ODOT requested that money specifically for seismic, and requested, and the reason this is before you is because they asked the city to partially fund the match for that project. I'll tell you that I was not pleased by the request, and urged my staff to tell ODOT to go find the other $5,000. But because it has been an important part of the goals of the council, we decided to agree to bring some money to the table, and then that's why it's here. You are correct. I think this is what this study costs. I don't think there is more money available for this to add to the scope of this study. We're only in it for $5,000 out of $200,000. So I don't know that we're in a position to negotiate other than to say we're just not going to bring our money to the table on this one. Councilor Lewis is the representative at the SCATS Policy Committee and can probably speak more to the issue of what funding is available, but I don't think there's any more money available to add to the scope of this study.
Councilor Nanke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do we not have a plan already if we dropped one of the bridges on how we would move traffic two-way?
I don't know that there's a plan, that's prepared. It could certainly be done, but I don't know of a document that shows exactly how that would be done.
Yeah, because if either of the bridge had something going on for an extended period of time, you'd think we'd want to have that in place so we knew exactly where to shoot the cone so we could get traffic moving again.
Point is we need that.
So that's the study that we can just look
Well,
at, and then we'd probably, since it's a state highway, have to get buy-off from the state, so.
That's an Oregon Department of Transportation facility, so it's really up to them to
But that would be independent of this,
help
too. That's
us
just
figure
something
that
we
out.
should all do.
Could we have the chief give I apologize, Counselor, but let the chief speak for just a second.
Good evening, Council. Jerry Moore, Chief of Police. We do have plans with ODOT that we can turn the bridges into two-way streets, but it takes a while. But it is possible for that to be accomplished.
Counselor Cook, did you?
Oh, I was just saying during the eclipse with the CERT teams, they did have the Union Street Bridge available should there have been a blockage on the state. So there are emergency plans in place.
Thank you. Thank you. Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. I have another question for the chief. I'm aware, Chief, that there was a plan that was done sometime in the past. Would you think that that might need to be upgraded?
Well,
or at least dusted off and looked at again?
Well, it's possible it might need to be, but the bridges really haven't changed since the plan was
Okay.
made, so I don't think there's going to be a lot of changes to it.
If I may keep the floor, I'm happy, and with the approval of the second to withdraw the second half of that motion. I think the real point is we need to make sure that plan is here and updated, and I don't think I need to make a motion to that effect. I'm seeing the city manager and the police chief nodding their heads. But I do have a question for Director Fernandez about the first part of the motion, which is adding additional lanes to the bridge. I guess my question, Director, is the seismic upgrade, that's going to include work on the supports that are in the river and the water. I mean, that's what seismic upgrade is looking at, right? How strong those are they, I don't know if they have to be flexible or inflexible in an earthquake, but they have to be looked at somehow. Is that correct?
I'm not a structural engineer. I assume those are the kinds of things to look at.
I mean, because we're not going to be looking at the surface so much, but we want to see what's holding them up. So that's kind of, to me, why the first part makes some sense, because if we're going to be going and looking at the support system of the bridge, if at some point in the future we look at the possibility of adding other lanes to that bridge, we're going to also be having to look at the support system. So that's, to me, why it makes some sense.
So your motion, so I understand it, would be then that part of this study would include, if it's funded,
yes,
a look at the feasibility of added lanes to the bridge.
Yes.
Is what you're talking about.
Yes, and I actually said that the staff negotiated with ODOT to include evaluating the possibility. So I've got some qualifiers there to include evaluating the possibility of adding additional lanes.
But let me understand just for a second, Counselor, just so I've got it clear in my head. What we would be talking about, it sounds like, is potentially removing bicycle and pedestrian. That doesn't change the structural integrity. That isn't really adding lanes. That's just reconfiguring existing lanes, right? So that's really would be part of the seismic study, is will that be supported?
Well, I think that's part of it, but I would guess that you're going to need more support for a car lane, additional car truck lane, than you would for a bike ped lane. And all I'm saying is that if we're going to be talking with the state about how we can increase the support of the pillars that are supporting your bridge now, we might as well take an incremental step forward and say, well, is this earthquake work we're doing enough to support an additional lane on the bridge? That's really what I think can be discussed, and the staff could come back and say, gee, they're going to want us to contribute $200,000, or that's not feasible in this because supporting additional weight is different than taking care of earthquake integrity.
So you're essentially saying, see if you can talk them into doing this. Okay.
Right, and so I'd like them to report back at the next, the next feasible opportunity to see if this is possible. If it's not possible, then let's get the earthquake study
let's
done.
not let this earthquake get away.
Exactly. No, I'm in favor of
I appreciate
the earthquake.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just worry that when we add things, that were unanticipated to the mix in this kind of a study, you
Well,
suddenly change the scope
Yeah,
of the study.
ODOT could
and
reject it as out of hand, and then...
say, no thanks, and we'll go ahead with the study.
Yeah, yeah.
Mayor and council, if I may?
Yep.
I would recommend that be a separate action, and that you allow staff to proceed with this IGA so we don't risk losing the funds to other projects within the ODOT region.
With the consent of my second, I will withdraw that motion. I will move the staff amendment, but then I will make a second motion after we vote on the staff amendment, or excuse me, the staff recommendation.
How about we set that aside for a little bit, give you a chance to talk with the Public Works Director, some of the rest of us to think about this. This is a new motion, new concept on the fly. Maybe we could have a little time and come back at the next meeting and with your motion figured out.
Yeah, I'd be happy to raise that motion at the next meeting.
Would you mind?
Yeah.
That'd be great.
So,
Thank you very much.
And I assume there's some structural engineer I can talk to at the engineering department between now and then. Would that be Mr. Martin?
Well, I guess you can talk to Mr. Martin, yes.
Okay. Thank
Well,
you.
then we're all in agreement.
Yeah,
Your
I
motion,
move
then
staff
Councilor,
recommendation.
Staff recommendation?
Yep.
Second.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
Was just how quickly was this IGA going to move? Because if the idea is to do the work at the same time, do we need to have the Councilor Anderson's second motion at the same time, or how quickly would this IGA go through? The one that's already on the document.
Sorry. It's ready to roll. I mean, this is what you see before you. I mean, as soon as you approve it, the city manager's going to sign it.
I will,
I don't know
excuse
if
me,
that
I will be
changes
making my motion again at the next meeting.
Okay.
So we are going to vote staff recommendation. You ready to vote? Nope. Go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before our next meeting, we could just talk to someone at ODOT quick, and so we should know the answer whether or not it's something feasible or not, even prior to the next meeting.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes. Okay. Thank you, Counselor. Where are we now? Information reports, right? Information reports. Yeah, is there anybody that's got any issues? I'd like to hear just a little bit about 6B. Counselor Nick, this is in your ward. I took a look at this. I was just slightly confused. Maybe, Lisa, you could help me out. And let me describe my confusion just a little bit so you'll know what you're trying to solve, at least for me. I don't know if it bothers anyone else. For a number of years, I had issues in my ward, in Ward 1, with lots that were essentially on a long flag driveway coming off it, and it was a substandard width street that had no parking on it so that emergency vehicles get through, and then over the years, either the no parking signs disappeared or people decided they didn't really mean no parking, they meant not that guy parking, but I can. And we started getting parking on those very narrow streets. Does this have that potential?
Yes, hello, Lisa Anderson-Ogilvie, I'm your planning administrator. Yes, this is a flag lot. It's 20 feet wide, no parking on either side. It is permitted under the code. You can do those for partitions, you can do them in subdivisions. The houses on these lots will have sprinklers, so if there's a fire problem, and we will have no parking signs posted. But there's not room to put in a street here. When you look at the slope, the lot pattern around it, and the streets and houses that already exist, there's not room for a street. So flag lots and access ways are a way to allow kind of hard to reach property, long, narrow lots to develop without putting in a full street.
Let me try this out on you. I'll try it out on the council as well. The more common reason for the fire department to be there is the need for a defibrillator. It's going to be the heart of one of those people has gone. There's no sprinkler system for that. I mean, you know what I mean? There's no in-house resolution or code resolution for that. We don't have a code that requires in-home defibrillators. And that's where I get kind of concerned here with this type of development. And I watched it up in parts of northeast Salem, and it really became a problem, particularly as properties changed hands. Does that at all sound familiar to you?
Yes, flag lots can be a problem, yes, and they're private, so when they call the city and say, my neighbor's parking here, we don't really have a solution for them because it's private, shared, privately owned, so that can be a problem, but it is something that's permitted in the code. This does have a adjustment to allow more flag lots than would normally be allowed in a subdivision, so that's different here, but flag lots are a permitted way to develop property currently in the code.
Okay. Councilor Cook?
Just a question in relation to the creek. I know that it's not necessarily on the property, but the environmental impact because of the park behind these properties, is that something that's considered at all in this particular?
They will have to design for stormwater runoff and stormwater detention.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, the creek's not on the property, and it's pretty steep, so they, will have to take that into consideration with grading as well.
Okay.
Councilor Nate?
Thank you, as long as we have it pulled up onto the floor. So I couldn't tell for certain, is Lot 7 going to be developed, or is it going to stay as a stand of white oaks then?
It will be available for development, yes. The flag lot will serve it. So I believe if they build a house, it'll be right at the front, and then the back half, because of how steep it is, would stay as open space.
And that's due to topographical and
Yes.
configuration as well, that they would save that as a natural
Yes,
space?
it makes the most sense if they're going to put a house to put it right next to Lot 6.
Thanks.
If this were pulled up and we had a public hearing, would we be able to deal with that substandard, but it's not a street, the private street issue I've described? Or when you say it's in the code, you mean pretty much not much you can do?
You could decide that you don't want to approve the adjustment and allow this many lots on a flag lot. The result would be that most of this property would be not ever be developed. So it's kind of a trade-off. This is a hard to develop property. It's big, it's steep, all the property around it's developed. There's no way to get a street in there. So this was kind of the option to develop it, and we'll see more of this over time as there's, desire for development, and the land that we have left is steep and odd shaped and infill lots. So,
Okay. Councilor Anderson?
I think the
Councilor
other
Cook?
side had.
Just in a question to the park again, the footpath to Woodmancy, does it go along the back of this property or through the back in those oaks?
I'm not familiar with the footpath, so if it goes through the property, it's going through public or private property.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with the footpath.
We'll talk after.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that the way it's been designed and approved, as long as people will follow the law and not park there, the emergency vehicles will be able to get in and service all of these houses.
Correct.
Thanks.
But there's no enforcement mechanism.
Well, there certainly is. I mean, if someone's parked in front of a no parking sign and you call the city, I think they'll probably do something about it.
No, because it's private. It's private. They can't do anything about it.
If there's no parking
It's a fire
signs?
lane, so we could respond and they could get a ticket for blocking the fire lane, yes.
Would that affect the response
If
time?
they say my neighbor only does it on the weekends, we may not get out there, but yes, it's not the same as parking on a street.
Calling it.
Yes, that is true.
Jeez. Wow. Councilor Anderson?
I looked at this before the meeting, and I shared some of the concerns the mayor has, and in fact, I had a little informal conversation with Councilor Hoy about flag lots, which I always have called panhandle lots, so I didn't know what he was talking about, but I often don't know what he's talking about. But, I came down on this and looked, we are trying to encourage infill. And yes, the lots that are left in some of these places, if they were easy to build on, they would have been built on already.
You're on the other side.
So I actually think it's, speaking generally, it's good that the staff is trying to accommodate the infill on some of these areas that are hard to build on, and so I think it's a good thing.
Okay, Councilor White? Okay. All righty, any other discussion on these information items? All righty.
Oh, yes.
Sorry.
Sorry. Item 6G.
6G. Did you want to discuss this, Councilor?
Please, I'd love to hear the staff report. Is that the first step?
This is an information item, so if you have specific questions regarding it, you can ask.
Okay.
And perhaps since it was a late addition, Lisa could provide a summary of the item.
That sounds wonderful.
Yes, so this is appearing on your agenda because it's an appeal of a zoning adjustment, and the council has the opportunity to take jurisdiction of the appeal, and if you choose not to, it will go to the hearings officer. The application was to allow a larger shop in somebody's backyard than we allow, and allow it to be closer to the side property line than we allow. The shop's already built, so the property owner legally built a 1,000 square foot shop, which is the maximum he could have, and then a few years later went in and added a 400 square foot addition without permits, and then we got complaints from neighbors. So we tried to work with him to just remove the 400 feet. He wanted to go through this process and try to make the case for getting an adjustment, but we didn't feel like he met the criteria for having a larger shop.
And so our options now at this point are to...
You could either have the hearings officer hear the appeal, or you can make a motion and then you would hear the appeal.
A motion to hear the appeal?
Yes, to take jurisdiction of the appeal. And then we would schedule it for a public hearing at the city council. If you do nothing, the appeal will go to the hearings officer, and that will be the final decision of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Okay, that's it on the information reports. First reading of ordinances.
Ordinance Bill Number 2017, an ordinance vacating the southeasterly portion of Old Maclay Road Southeast.
Councilor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would move staff recommendation.
Second by Anderson.
Are you leaving?
Okay, any discussion?
Nope, actually, it's a good thing.
Good, okay. Anyone else? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Oh, and the good news, we are adjourned.
Okay, I'm thinking that was second reading, so I was